Hello again, guys. You're welcome to yet another quick Excel tutorial. Today we are going to be talking about cell reference, and then we'll focus on relative and absolute cell reference. Now, in our previous video, the one just before this one, we talked about named ranges. By the way, before I continue, just in case you need the resources, the spreadsheets, or the workbook for our tutorials, you can check on the description, the video description. You are going to see the link where you can download the spreadsheet and then follow up with the tutorial or with the exercises that I usually give. Now let's return back to the video. Now, like I said, we'll be talking about cell reference, and then we'll focus on the two types of cell references we have: relative cell reference and absolute cell reference. What is the difference? Now, I'll be returning back to this table which we created earlier, and then I've completed it up till this point, average sales. Now let's go over to remark. Now I'm going to use the remark column now to explain how to use the two cell references, relative and absolute. Assuming I want to assign, or I want to give a remark to each of the marketers based on their sales, okay, based on the quantity of products sold. Now, assuming that the quantity sold target, that's the target, is 200, you can see the result here, what they are able to sell. Now, how do we give a remark or assign remark to each of the marketers based on their performance, their sales performance? First of all, we are going to use the relative cell reference, which is the default. Okay, so let's go into it. So I'm going to start with equal to. I'll be writing a conditional statement right now. So I'll say if, open bracket, if the quantity sold by Dennis Adebanjo, if the quantity of products he sold, click on that, is greater than or equal to the target. All right, if the quantity sold is greater than or equal to the target, comma, then what should be the result? Now I can do it in another way. Instead of clicking on the cell references, I can hard code it directly inside the formula. So I think I'm going to use that method, which may be better in this case. So I'll say equal to if, open bracket, so the quantity sold for Dennis Adebanjo is inside cell J3. Okay, that's the cell reference. So if J3 is greater than or equal to, okay, greater than or equal to, you see that J3 has been selected automatically since we hard coded it inside the formula. So if the quantity sold is greater than or equal to the target, which is P3, so I'm going to also hard code that P3. Okay, then I'll put comma. So if J3 is greater than or equal to P3, the Dennis remark, the remark of the marketer is going to be excellent, for instance. But what if this this condition is not satisfied? All right, if this condition is not satisfied, that is, if this number, quantity sold, is not greater than or equal to the sales target. So I'm going to come over here and then add comma, then open another string, that's double quotation, and then I'll say poor. All right, then close the quotation. That is it. So I'm going to close the bracket right now. So again, this is the condition. The condition says that if the sales quantity is greater than or equal to the target, which is P3, if this condition is fulfilled, then the person's remark would be excellent, which means he did excellently or she did excellently. But what if this condition is not satisfied or met? Then the person's performance was poor. Okay, so once I hit enter, this is going to give me the result. I can actually automatically fill this table. Okay, now as you can see, we have excellent displaying on all the cells for all the sales representatives, all the marketers. Now this should not be so. The reason is that this person's sales was less than 200. The target is 200, so this person's sales is less than 200. This shouldn't be showing excellent. All right, we have 173 here is showing excellent, which is not supposed to be so. Now this is not an error. It's showing this way because we use what is called a relative cell reference. Okay, now a relative cell reference, I'm going to define that right now. A relative cell reference is a cell reference that changes relative to the position of your formula. For example, I'm going to delete this once again. After calculating the first one, it gives me the correct result, which is excellent for this first person, since he or she met the condition or the target. So that's excellent. But if I drag this down, for instance, this is going to also give me excellent, which is correct. All right, I'm going to drag this down again, another excellent, but this time it is wrong. The reason is that as we are dragging down, right here it is also coming down. That is why we call it a relative cell reference. As your formula is coming down the table, it is also coming down right here. Okay, so the formula is relative to the position of your cell. Okay, so if I show you this again, I'm going to do this to get all the results. So I'm going to open this formula. If J3 is greater than or equal to P3, we have the result. If I come down here, if J4 is equal to or greater than or equal to P4, which is not supposed to be so. Now we have to find a way to lock the formula to P3. The reason is that the quantity sold target, the target is inside cell P3. Okay, cell P3. So we have to find a way to lock the formula to P3 so that as we are dragging down, applying the formula down the column, it's not going to change relative to the position of the formula. So in this case, we're going to have to use the absolute cell reference. Okay, we'll have to use the absolute cell reference. Now, to define that before we use it, the absolute cell reference is the cell reference that is locked. Okay, when you try to lock a formula to a particular cell, you convert it to an absolute cell reference. So here's how we do that. I'm going to come over here and type this all over again so that you understand better. So I'll delete this and then I'll say equal to if open bracket. So if again we'll come back to J3 since that's the quantity sold for Dane. So if J3 is greater than or equal to, all right, so we'll have to now enter the cell reference for the quantity sold target, that is P3 again. So I'm going to say P3. Now before I continue, I'm going to have to lock this. There are two ways you can lock your formula. You can either, the easier way of doing it is to hit the F4 button on your keyboard to lock it. This is going to add this dollar sign before each of the characters, which means the formula has been locked to this particular cell. Again, the shortcut is F4 on your keyboard. All right, now I can do it manually by typing the dollar sign, dollar F and dollar 4. Sorry, that should be dollar P dollar 3, which is this particular cell right here. Okay, so if J3 is greater than or equal to P3, which is locked to this particular cell, now I'm going to add comma and open quotation. So what should happen if this condition is satisfied or met? I'm going to say, yeah, excellent, close quotation. So what if this condition is not met or satisfied? I'm going to open another quotation and I'll say poor, right? Then close that and close the bracket. It's a simple conditional statement. So you see that this time the difference is that this P3 have been locked. The formula have been locked to this particular P3, which is the sales target. So if I hit enter, this is going to give me the result. All right, so once I come here and I flash fill it, and now you can see that we have the correct result. This person's sales target is 141, which doesn't meet our condition. So you see that his performance or her performance is poor. All right, this person is 173, 183, which are poor. 234 is excellent. The target, he or she exceeds the target. 173 is poor, and then 193, and then 228 is Excellent. So we have the correct result now because our formulas are now locked to this particular cell. Okay, so that is the difference between relative and absolute cell reference. Again, you can take your time and then use this spreadsheet, download it from using the link below this, the description of this message, this video, and then use it as a practice exercise.